Losing so many people. Complete families wiped out. There were so many complete families wiped out.
You know, the one woman that talked to you inside Auschwitz that said, you will never make any sense of this because it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is too insane to understand.
Right.
You can't comprehend it because it's incomprehensible.
It is. It is.
I mean, we're sitting here talking about, you know, you and your direct family. And then you multiply it times 2 to get you and your direct family and Max and his direct family. But then you have to do that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Right.
Over and over again. And every one of those unidentified bodies that got buried in a mass grave with no identification and no family, every one of those, and you know, this is something I talk about a lot because it happens in war all the time. Oh, there was 22 soldiers killed. Oh, there was, 428 soldiers killed on this attack in World War I. Those aren't just soldiers. Those are people.
Of course not. Absolutely.
And these people, these bodies, unidentified bodies, every one of them had a family, had hopes, and had dreams.
Absolutely. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Max convinces, it sounds like he kind of convinces Fred to come out.
Yes.
And move to California. It sounds like Fred had a harder time after.
He did. He did. He had a harder time. He lost his hair in the camp. So after liberation, his hair never came back. And he was more, a lot of people are more obsessed from the past. The best thing is sometimes to forget some, not to think always about the past, because you want to go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a thing that I talk to people when I talk about loss, right? Because I've lost a lot of friends, and when people ask me about how they handle that, I tell them to remember, but don't dwell. So we never want to forget what happened,
right? But
we don't want to, as you're saying, we don't want to sit there in the past because we need to think about the future. We need to move forward.
Absolutely.
Max says we don't really talk about the camps much at all. Our friends don't want to hear about the atrocities, and we don't want to relive them. Mm-hmm. Even in our survivors group, it's not a big subject. It is difficult to talk about losing absolutely everything, your home, your family, everything you own, even your family photos. For most Jewish families, the only people to survive are those who left Europe or hid. Our circumstances are rare. Even Rose and I have an unspoken agreement not to speak of it between us. We both understand and do not need to talk about it. We are focused on going forward.
Right.
Looking ahead and working on everything together.
That's what life is all about.
When you talked about, again, just Max's career, and he's one of the things that he said about his career, he said, I want my children to see that anything is possible with determination, hard work, and an eagerness to learn.
Right. If the war wouldn't have been affecting Max so badly, and his whole family, he would have been really something very special. He was a very smart man. Mm-hmm. So, we have no education. There were a lot of big plans for the Schindler boys in before the war, okay? But of course, it all went to hell.
When your son Steve's 13 years old, and tell us about what happened there that kind of changed the direction of your life a little bit. Well,
he was in the Anne Frank story, and he played the part of Peter, okay? And the teacher found out that his parents are Holocaust survivors at Lewis Junior High in Allied Gardens. And that's when I started speaking about the Holocaust. Before, we didn't want to talk about it, okay? because life goes on, and so we didn't want to even tell our kids a lot about what happened. So when Steve was in this play, they started calling me to go and talk about the Holocaust. So and I've been speaking there, it's close to 50 years now. Steve is 62. No, he's 60. Ben is 62. Steve is going to be 61 next month. So you can imagine how many years I've been speaking about the Holocaust.
Well, one thing that you said in here that I think really is a bold statement. You say the Germans did not succeed in their endeavor to silence the Jews or prevent anyone from telling of their atrocities. I am one of the few who remain, and I can tell the world.
Right.
AT25893 on my forearm has a new value.
Right.
And I am not one to pass up an opportunity. This may be my first time speaking, but I will find more places to share my story. That's what you said after you got done speaking to those kids for the first time. You were talking to Max after you did after you talked to the kids.
The first time.
Yeah, and you guys are having this conversation. And this is Max talking. He says, he's asking you, what were they asking you about? He says, what else did they ask? And it says, Rose thought for a moment before responding. One child asked, why do I think I survived Auschwitz? She says softly. The fact that a child asked this is interesting to me. Sometimes children say things that adults won't. I know that Rose has thought about this before, so I'm interested to hear her answer. I push a little further. And what was your answer? I asked quietly. It's a miracle that I survived Auschwitz. Also, I really do think part of it is because I kept looking out and trying new things. I would not give up. I just continued and never gave up hope. As I process her words, she squeezes my hands across the table and says, you did the exact same thing. This takes me aback for a moment. It is true, but I've never thought about my time in the camps in this way before. It really is true that you don't know when the next attempt at survival might be the one that succeeds, I say. I smile and squeeze her hand back. You really are amazing, Rose. We got to this place together, Max, Rose replies, before placing a kiss on my cheek. We sit silently for a moment as we both ponder how our lives could have been different. Before this moment is broken, I squeeze her hand to get her attention. We have climbed mountains I did not know we could climb. We made it, Rose. We made it.
Yeah.
And actually, as we came in, I'm sorry, Rose.
He's gone over 3 years now. We're married 67 years.
Well, I think the incredible life that you shared together is something that is a beautiful story. And Ben, when he came in, he said he'd been listening to the podcast a little bit to kind of get a feel for it and talk to you a little bit about what it was going to be like. And he was listening to one of the podcasts, and one of the podcasts, what I was saying in the podcast was, keep moving forward. Like, hey, things are going to be hard. You keep moving forward. Right. And he actually brought in a photograph of Max's tombstone, and it has the single quote that Max, that the family decided to put on the gravestone was, live day to day and keep moving forward. And I got to say, like I said, this whole thing got started when my wife went and saw you speak, and just looking at this book, you didn't know her at the time, but you made a little inscription to my wife, and it just says, Helen, never give up hope. Signed, Rose Schindler. And I think that...
Did I write that down?
You wrote that right there.
No kidding. Never give up hope. Yeah.
Never give up hope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that really between never give up hope and keep moving forward, those are
very strong sayings.
Strong sayings, and you and Max are shining examples of how to actually do that.
Right.
How to actually do that in life. I know I've had you trapped in here for a while. You have a website. The name of the book is To Who Survived.
ToWhoSurvived.com.
Yeah, so there's a website called ToWhoSurvived.com. The book is available there. The book is available on Amazon. We'll have a link to it so people can get it through our website to make it easy for them, because they know our podcast website is Jocko Podcast. You also have social media. So despite the fact that you're not quite a teenager anymore, you still have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and all those are at To Who Survived. It's the written out TWO Who Survived.
Right.
And the book, I'm telling you, I read a fraction of the book today. There's so many details in there. The stories, the two intertwining stories, are so moving. They're so powerful, and like I said, it reads like a story. It reads like
it's a real story.
Yeah.
Exactly what happened.
And the language is just, it feels like you're sitting across the table hearing it first.
The language is actually, we did this for middle school.
Well, it was perfect for me then.
Yes, it's perfect for everybody, I guess. But we thought it's so important for us to tell it to the kids at school, what happened to us. Okay, so
yeah, it's a beautiful book. I mean, despite the fact that it's filled with horror, it still is a beautiful book about the strength of that human beings can display,
right?
Even in the face of the evil of other human beings.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts, Rose? Because I don't want to keep you in here forever.
I want to thank you for doing that. I hope people will enjoy your story. Okay. I don't even know where if I turn on my. It's not a radio. I don't even know what you call it.
I'll explain.
Yeah.
I'll explain to Ben how to get it done.
Well, we have since Max passed away, I don't even use my not a radio. It's a whole set.
Well, I'll make sure to talk to Ben so that you can listen to it and watch it. Actually, you can watch it too, because it'll be on something called YouTube, which is like a television that you can watch at any time you want.
I'm on YouTube already.
Yeah, well, I've watched some of your stuff on YouTube already.
Yeah.
You'll be on there more.
But it's really funny because I've never even put on it's not a radio that I have, it's a whole set,
Like a stereo system. Is that what's okay?
Right,
okay.
a stereo system.
Okay.
I couldn't think of the right word. Stereo system. I should put it on sometime. Max used it all the time. Mm-hmm. But ever since he passed away, things are so different for me.
Well, yeah, you know what? I do recommend you go and put the stereo system on. Put some records on there.
Yeah, you should see all the records we have.
Well, I bet that Max would like to sit down with you there and listen to some of those.
He probably
listen
would.
to some of those albums.
I hope he can.
So
okay?
I recommend you do it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a beautiful day.
Yeah,
and
thank you, and you too, and have a beautiful life. And just remember, if you have a problem, if something is not going so well, remember tomorrow is going to be better. Okay?
I will do that. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story, and thank you for giving us an example.
Thank you for doing this, okay?
It's an honor to have you.
Okay.
Thank you. And with that, Rose Schindler has left the building. What an honor to have her on. What a story. Pretty unbelievable. Echo, you made it through.
Yes.
It's kind of harrowing when you think about it from the perspective of a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And there's two things that